As you all know through your day-to-day, that competition for quality candidates is only going to get tougher as the year goes on. If the recent Bureau of Labor Statistics reports revealed anything about what the industry looks like, it's that Omicron isn't slowing down companies from hiring. And even a recent Wall Street Journal article noted that there's roughly 60 unemployed people for every 100 job openings, which means that pretty much anyone who wants a job can probably find one. So in the next 30 minutes, Monster will be explaining a step-by-step strategy on how to adopt an always be recruiting approach. And this is to help you stay ahead of the quitting trend and also be ready to hire the newest available talent. Colleen Conti, our Director of Product Marketing here at Monster, will be walking through each stage of the candidate journey, as well as actionable tactics that you can take both internally and externally to boost your retention, build your candidate pipeline, and respond to candidate signaling. For those who have to leave early or would like this document in advance, what we will do is tomorrow we'll send around a copy of this webinar as well as the full presentation. So with that, I'll hand it over to Colleen to get started.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Meg. So as Meg said, I'm Colleen Conti. I'm the Director of Product Marketing here at Monster. And I'm excited to talk to you all today about what we call an always be recruiting strategy. So we'll go through some ways in which you can be proactive in recruiting versus reactive, particularly, as Meg mentioned, in today's really challenging market where it's just getting harder and harder to find talent. I think we've all heard how hard it is to find enough and quality talent. We've heard of the Great Resignation, as Meg talked about, and it's just really important that employers have a strong foundation in order to really turn up the volume on their recruiting efforts to drive that top of funnel traffic. So, as Meg mentioned, we'll get into some of the internal tactics that you can take, for your existing employee base. And then we'll follow the candidate journey and we'll give some pointers along the way to help engage candidates through various parts of their own, consideration for making a move. So if we just quickly take a look at the landscape of recruiting in 2022. So according to our research, companies are full steam ahead this year in terms of hiring. So 93% of employers are planning to hire. Half of that is to replace staff who have left, to seek other opportunities or have quit, making the Great Resignation. And 41% is for entirely new positions, which is a really good sign of growth. The problem is that good talent is just getting harder and harder to find, and it's costing more, as you all know, to attract that talent. There's also a skills gap. So more than 9 out of 10 employers say that they are struggling to fill positions because of a skills gap. And many say that that gap continues to increase. Luckily, most companies have recognized this, and employers are more and more willing to hire and train the right candidate with those transferable skills. So before we look externally at what you can do, we can take a look at some internal initiatives. So we all know retaining your current employee base is really easier and it's less expensive than recruiting new talent. So it's really important to have that pulse on your organization and provide ways to get feedback. So for example, here at Monster, we do a check-in survey that goes out to all employees at least once a month. And the leadership team here regularly checks it and addresses any issues popping up, along with really taking to heart some suggestions from employees. And this is presented at company meetings. And we've had a lot of new programs designed to really retain and listen to employees implemented as a result of this survey. So it's just really a great way to make individuals feel like the company is regularly listening to them and really helps that retention rate as a result. Present open opportunities across the company and really promote your referral program heavily. This may seem obvious, but it can reduce your time to hire and it can create a more engaged workforce because current employees feel like they are trusted and valued and they have a say and input into the hiring process if they're referring people that they know. And then finally, to really address the statistic, we covered on the previous slide about skills gaps. Understand what skills you currently possess in your employees. So if there are employees that have the right skills for, another role that you're trying to fill that's tougher than filling their current role, it actually may be mutually beneficial to make the move and switch them over to a new role. And so this one, along with the other two methods, really require that regular communication and check-ins with your organization. And, if your talent acquisition team is strapped for time, maybe it's partnering further with the HR department and getting them involved to help really promote some of these programs company-wide. Surviving is not a strategy. So what can we actually do about this? So here we have a view of the candidate journey. And of course, we all know and are pretty familiar with this journey, not only from being in the recruiting industry, but also from our experiences ourselves as candidates at some point in our careers. And we'll walk through each step of the journey and what you could be doing as a talent acquisition organization to help, engage candidates as they're at various stages in this journey. So we'll start with general awareness. When a candidate is in this general awareness stage, they're happy, or at least they're satisfied, and they really aren't actively considering a new opportunity at all. Of course, this is the hardest stage to influence or persuade them to really make a move and go elsewhere. But the good news is a recent survey indicated that even though 73% of candidates say they aren't actively looking for a new job, they would consider it if the right opportunity came along. So even though they feel like they are happy, there's always a chance, and they could see your top of funnel content and convert. So we'll get more into that top of funnel content and what we really mean by that. So now we're in the passive search. So at this stage, a trigger, whether it's conscious or subconscious, occurs for that candidate. So they could be unhappy with their current employer, whether it's lack of upward mobility or pay, direction, or company values. They're not really applying or searching on the job boards just yet, but they're really, really starting to consider the process and kind of evaluate where they are in their career and where they would like to go next. So this is when candidates may start reaching out to their friends or networks very casually. They're browsing social media probably as they always do, but with more of a piqued interest on brands. Maybe they're assessing their own personal skills and they start updating their resume a bit, either, using a friend or help, by using a professional service, but they're really starting to get ready. And this is where your employer brand really starts to make an impact. So if you're clear about who you are, you have a strong employer brand presence, it's mobile optimized, it's professional, candidates will really start to take notice. And different brands can take different approaches to this because it's really based on your unique brand personality and culture and what you want to put out there about what makes you different than the competition. So some research to back this up just shows that many millennials will visit employer social media properties to help them get a sense of your brand. So having an already strong presence about who you are and what you provide for your employees, it is really, really great for this stage of the journey. This is a great time to get your employer brand and your jobs in front of candidates where they are interacting every day. So making sure your employer brand presence is unified and has a consistent message is really critical. And if that involves, the marketing department or other communications departments, then, it's a good path to go down and make sure that you have those connections within your own organization and you're aligned on any direction that you want to move forward in. So the best way to take a proactive approach and get ahead of candidates in their journey is to really be, like I mentioned, in that place that they're going to spend time. So whether that's in the form of display ads, and you can see in this really tiny screenshot here, I'm on the Weather Channel and I start to see your employer brand. And I recognize, maybe this is a job I'm interested in. And this is particularly for those organizations that are not huge enterprise level organizations that have those widely recognized brand names. Like, this is even more important to start to get your name out there and get your jobs out there. I think we are here and are starting to hear more as recruiters, like, think like a marketer. And, it's really true to start adapting some of these approaches that marketers take to get their own prospect and lead generation funnels. If I'm a veteran, I could be using tools to help me transition into the civilian workforce, like military.com. And if your brand is visible on those sites, I'm likely to associate you with a brand who's actually focused on veterans. The same goes for sites geared towards a younger audience, like FastWeb for high school students or college students. Putting your jobs on sites dedicated to diversity is also a really great option to further diversify your workforce. And there are many different partner sites that you can have your job visible on. And so there are actually options within a job posting that will distribute your jobs to these boards automatically. So at Monster, we call these complete job ads. And then, of course, we mentioned social, which, we know candidates and people in general are on social every day. So the stronger and more unified your presence is there, the better recognition you'll have down the funnel. So back to the candidate journey. In this stage, likely something has happened to the candidate, whether they've been laid off or they've quit or they've just become increasingly dissatisfied. And they're now really ready to start actively searching for a new job. They're ready to get into the market. They'll likely turn to job boards like Monster to search for jobs. They will start to update and upload their resume or update their profile, depending on their preference there. They'll reach out to their networks a bit more heavily, and they will really start to hone in on brands that they might want to work for and start visiting those career sites to get a little bit more information. 3 out of 4 candidates actually prefer to apply directly on an employer's career site. So if the experience is not intuitive and if they cannot easily navigate to a relevant job and apply, the greater chance that they will just abandon the application process altogether. So be aggressive in your recruitment strategy. Of course, hopefully your proactive methods like those display ads I mentioned have helped with some brand recognition. But in parallel, this is when to get a bit more aggressive. It's so crazy that the best candidates only stay on the market for 10 days, which is so short when you really think about how long the hiring process takes. And if you think about, every hiring process at every organization is different. But if you think about how long your hiring process is, and then how long candidates are on the job market, it's really critical to move fast. So how can we help? How can we get into the candidates when they're just starting to consider? And this is where candidate signaling comes in. And this is a term we've heard a lot more about more recently. And it really goes into, are there little ways that you can anticipate candidate movement before they actually apply for your job? So, like knowing when candidates update their information on their resume and profile can be critical, especially for operating in those short windows of time. So if you would receive, for example, a direct feed of those candidates who update their information on Monster right into an ATS system that you're already using, this direct intel can help you proactively engage with those candidates. If you have a specific set of skills that you're hiring for, like you need to hire someone who has their CPA or a group of people who have their CPAs, for example, you can receive updates of candidates, from Monster who have started their journey and have updated some element of their profile or their resume and have those exact set of skills. Those will come directly over to you in your system. And this is great for monitoring those transferable skills we mentioned earlier. If titles aren't doing it for you and you're really looking for skills, then you can start to hone in on, okay, I just need people with this specific set of skills. How can I get a constant feed of these people into my world? Having the ability to directly access a resume database within your applicant tracking system also helps you avoid toggling multiple search databases and really saves you time. And I think, we all know spending time connecting with candidates and filling those hires is where your time is best spent instead of logging into 8 different systems and dealing with the administrative aspect of recruiting. So have the ability to directly reach out through text and email, of course, as we all know, reduces that time to hire. So as you receive updates on, which candidates have entered the system that meet your criteria, you can immediately reach out to them with your opportunity before the competition even has a chance to, which, is a factor that is especially important in a candidate-driven market. So CRM campaigns to pools of candidates who meet your criteria are just a great way to help nurture potential applicants Engage interest from candidates who may be at the early stages of their journey. An important call out to make here, though, is make sure you're monitoring your response rates and adjust accordingly. So see what's working and share those good examples across your recruiting team. Are they getting good responses or bad responses because they need to be more personalized? Are the subject lines making an impact? Just try to do some quick high-level gauging on what might be working so you can really start to repeat it at scale and have your entire recruiting teams using the same tactics that seem to be working. Of course, in the early stages of a candidate journey, when they're starting to browse, it's important that when they do actually come to your career site or see your employer brand on channels like social, you have that crisp, clear, mobile optimized experience that directly speaks to the candidates you need, while also touting your unique value in what you provide to your employees. Candidates have more choices than ever in today's environment, and they're placing more and more importance on employer brand elements such as the culture, the environment, the commitment to diversity. But on the flip side of that, a recent study shown that only 9% of career sites had a good amount of that engaging content, graphics, videos, and messaging to engage those people. So it's clear that there is room for improvement here. And this can be an effective way to take advantage of that traffic that comes to your page and make sure you're effectively converting them. So it's really building that foundation so that when you do turn up the volume on methods like display ads and social ads, they're coming to a really, really good, clean, crisp, compelling experience. So moving on to the active search phase, the application phase of the journey, the candidate now sees your job posting, whether it's on a job board or your own career site. That same study I just referenced showed that 89% of career sites did not have an intuitive job search and apply process for candidates. So that's also a huge potential of missed opportunities to convert candidates who are engaged. They're on your site, they're ready to give you their information, and they're saying they're interested in your organization. So it's really important to make sure you do a self-audit on your career site and understand what the process is like for them and where there may be room for improvement. You may find that the application process is long and it's difficult and that it's leading to significant drop-off and that candidates just give up before they complete the full apply. It's also a good idea to involve marketing or other stakeholders if they need to be involved in a website approval or design, even if it's just the career site that you're dealing with, just to save you time later and make sure they're bought in and they understand your direction and the ROI that this can provide. So this is an obvious one, but this is really important because when people have bad experiences with a brand, they tell their friends and maybe even in today's world their network. So we constantly hear from recruiters that they are just always pressed for time in general, but this step is really worth it in the long run. It's important that as much as possible, you keep candidates informed of the process and you provide them with frequent updates. 83% of candidates say it would greatly improve the overall experience if employers just provided a clear timeline of that hiring process. This also involves coaching hiring managers on what the current environment is like today and how quickly you need to move in order to lock in applicants before they accept another offer. You can drive fast, but if others in your organization don't, then it slows down that time to hire. Sharing the stat of it takes 10 days for a good candidate to leave the market and using examples of other hiring stories that you personally have experienced at that organization may help convince them, if you're having some trouble getting them to buy into, we've got to move fast. And this ghosting concept even extends after the candidate has accepted the offer to come work for you. We see from employers that, there are a lot of no-shows or rejections of offers, even after they've accepted the job. So work with a hiring manager to ensure there's just frequent communication, send welcome emails and information on the company before they get started to help reduce that no-show rate on the first day of work, because absolutely nobody wants that. So in summary, it's important to view recruiting from the candidate journey and really be proactive in your approach. Considering all the stages that candidates may be in, and developing your employer brand and processes at different stages. You can see on the slide, we have various tactics that you could easily start implementing to keep that always be recruiting approach that is geared towards keeping your talent pipeline full and reducing your time to hire. So in the initial stages, develop your value proposition. Start by looking at your current one. Is it clear? Does it effectively tell your story? If you want to target veterans or diverse candidates, are you speaking to them in your messaging? We have experts on staff here at Monster that are solely dedicated to helping employer brands put this together and crafting, a very compelling value proposition. Another great way to get your brand out there is to build online content. So have your employees, especially those who are thought leaders and have a huge following, in your organization, post content that gets your brand in front of their own networks. Having them tell like a great story about working for your company, a great experience they've had at your company is a great piece of content that can be shared on social and on your career site. Encouraging, obviously candidates to post company reviews is another great way to build presence, particularly because study after study just shows that candidates reference online reviews before they apply or at least sometime during the hiring process. As I mentioned, social and display ads are just a great way to target candidates who haven't decided they're dead set on making a move. It piques their interest, but also ensures they start to recognize your brand. If you want to target veterans, diverse or young talent, you're making sure you have a presence on the sites that they're spending their time. It really shows that you're interested in those communities, and it's not a huge cost or time consuming at all. It can really just be included in your job ad distribution. Receiving direct feeds of candidates who have recently been active can really help you not only get ahead of the competition, but reach out to candidates who may still be in between that passive and active stage. And you really might get a jump start on engaging with them. If they've just recently updated their resume, you're getting ahead. Engaging with candidates through SMS and email reduces that time to hire, as we all know. But play with creative ways to make your outreach personalized and constantly monitor what types of approaches land with candidates. It may take some time up front, but getting that first impression right through an email can really make a big difference, especially in today's environment. So I hope that you found some of the content helpful today and you're able to take away some quick tips to help you get a jump start on getting more candidates in your pipeline and take advantage of a more proactive approach in your recruiting. Of course, our team of experts are always happy to have a deeper conversation with you and answer your specific questions on how to really improve your specific process. We'll actually go through that with you. They'll conduct that gap analysis for you and find ways in which you can quickly start to fill those gaps, building a strong foundation and fill that top of funnel traffic. So with that, I will turn it over to Meg.
Thank you very much, Colleen. This has been very helpful. We have received a lot of questions, and I know that we only have about 5 minutes left. So what I'd like to just say is that I have been doing my best to copy and paste them into a separate notes. We'll be reaching out to each of you that submitted a question over the last, and we'll respond in the next week. So your questions will be answered, and I want to thank all of you for being such an engaged audience. With that, I will try to get through as many as we can. Sorry, Colleen, it might be a little rapid fire here. One question that keeps popping up: will you receive a copy of this presentation? Yes. Tomorrow I will be sending out the email with the full recording as well as a link to all of the slides. So you'll definitely be able to reference it later. And of course, you have my email address. I'm happy to be your initial point person for Monster before we get you into much better hands, but I can at least help field questions and get you in the right place. So Colleen, one of the things that you mentioned was the multi-channel approach. Why do a multi-channel approach if the candidate is still passive?
That's a great question. I think I mentioned that strong foundation at the beginning of the webinar, and this is really true. Like, you want your employer brand out there. So, as candidates are considering making a move, you're top of mind when they decide, you know what, it's time to make a move. I've got to get out of here. So the timing may be right in your posting, especially if they've seen your employer brand before, are a little familiar with what you stand for. It may be the trigger to convert over to an active, ready to apply candidate. And this is especially true on sites like military.com for, veterans who are on there to really help themselves transition into the civilian workforce. If they are starting to associate you with a veteran friendly brand or a brand that's dedicated to hiring veterans, then they're more likely to say, you know what, I think it's time to go to an organization that better fits my value. Oh, Meg, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, I was feverishly typing away, so I left it on mute here, trying to copy down everything. Do candidates find texts from companies to be evasive? Interesting.
Oh, this is such a great question. And I would say it totally depends. So it's important to have one place, as a platform where you can see the outreach from recruiters to a candidate through text. So you're not all bombarding one person for different roles. And turning them off to your employer brand in general. This is also related to something I mentioned on the email and SMS slide, where you really need to pay attention to what methods are resonating for you. So constantly look at your response rates, your email response rates, your text message response rates, and evaluate what could be improved in there. So if candidates aren't replying to text consistently, or they're replying stop, then it's probably a good move to pump the brakes and reevaluate your messaging and the right channel. So this is really hard sometimes, especially when as a recruiter you just need to go and execute. So of course, another plug here. We have a team that can help you put together your messaging and evaluate your messaging for you. If that's something you need help with and you want to just focus on recruiting, you can have us focus on the writing. So
great. Speaking of our team, someone did comment that this seems to be more focused on corporate HR and not recruitment strategy agencies. You are spot on that we geared this towards corporate companies. However, we have a very deep bench for our staffing team who can absolutely help you do a gap analysis specific to your company. So definitely stay tuned for that. Colleen, I think we might be able to squeeze in one more. How can we drive more traffic to our career site?
Yes. So a critical element to your career site is ensuring that it's optimized for SEO. This is just a great free way to perform a bit better. We have expert copywriters who are just well-versed in SEO. And so when they help evaluate and restructure your career site with you, they will ensure your content is supporting that organic traffic. So a nice free way to get there. And then promote it on social. So work with your marketing partners if they own your social handle to tell stories of current employees and what they love about your company. So encourage your organization to just constantly push the fact that you are hiring. So we at Monster actually use a social media advocacy platform that makes it extremely easy for our employees to just post, push out a post on LinkedIn that speaks to the open positions we have and why it's just such a great place to work. It's great for the referral avenue I mentioned as well. So I hope that answers the question.
It does. Thank you. So we're almost at time. A lot of the questions that I've been receiving is actually around community sharing and can people get a document with all the questions and answers together after I compile them. So what I'll do is we'll first send out the email tomorrow with the actual slides and the recording of this webinar. And then I'll send another email next week to the same group that will have all the compiled questions and answers. So great point. Thank you so much for bringing it up. So I think this was a fast and furious 30 minutes here, but thank you so much for everyone for being such an engaged audience. Colleen, thank you so much for packing in so much information in 30 minutes. I know it was a lot, but definitely I even got some takeaways and I know we've done practice sessions before. So thank you again for this. And of course, please feel free to reach out to your Monster representative. In fact, I've got a few requests for actually us to reach out to you. So even better, we are very happy to do a gap analysis. We can go through your whole recruitment strategy, figure out where we can help build that pipeline for you and help you achieve your recruiting goals for this year. So thank you very much, everyone. And we hope you have a great day.
Thank you.